Hey, it's Fox from Inferno Fox Gaming. I cannot tell you how excited I am for the upcoming remake of Trails in the Sky First Chapter. But what I can do is talk about the series, which I've officially finished recently, and rank these excellent games. Oh man, I am so grateful to YouTubers such as David Vincent, Brandon from Just the Gems, and Emily from Orbology for getting me into this series, but especially my buddy Hardicus for originally mentioning the series a couple years ago. This series, the Trails series, is what you get when you combine absolutely stellar storytelling and character development with overall continuation similar to the likes of the phases 1 through 3 of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And you also get an absolutely fantastic soundtrack on every title. And this is to say nothing of the great battle system, which, well, if you've clicked on this video, you probably at least have a passing understanding of the series, so you know you're in for turn-based greatness. Before we jump in, let me set a couple ground rules and give you guys info on how I played these games. I played the Trails in the Sky trilogy as well as Cold Steel 1 and 2 on my Steam Deck. Every game else up through Daybreak 2, I played the Switch 1 versions. This means that for the series' earlier entries, I hadn't played them on the consoles they may have originated on, because of course the Trails in the Sky series originated on the PSP, and I think even the PC before that. And for the latter series, I played it on not the most powerful console available to me and available for these games. So, make of that what you will. Regarding the ranking itself, I will be ranking the 12 mainline entries currently available officially in English and in North America. No spin-offs such as The Legend of Naruto Boundless Trails or Ys vs. Trails are going to be ranked, nor stuff like the various anime. And I am sticking with the Trails series. No games earlier than the first chapter, such as like the Dragon Slayer games, are going to be ranked. And we are going to start off with number 12, Trails of Cold Steel 3. Released October 22nd, 2019.
Heed my call, Valimar!
The use of a divine knight is prohibited for this trial.
Oh, come on now. Why do you gotta keep interrupting poor Reen like that? Seriously though, I felt this entry was fairly weak on the story and character development. While it employs a 1-year time skip with Reen becoming an instructor, I feel like they didn't do a well enough job of explaining why he would accept such a position. That said, while it was great to see characters from previous games in the series like Randy, Toa, and Tita, I also felt like it didn't explain why they all became instructors or students and the like. The new Class 7 also really wasn't that compelling either. Many of them were pretty one-dimensional characters with like some sort of like predictable hook to them. I also really disliked how the game constantly teased the inclusion of Reen's Class 7 as the story went on, treating them like guest stars that would almost always come and rescue Reen and his party throughout the story. It also culminates in a fairly predictable cliffhanger right at the end of the game. But at least the battle system's pretty decent. The newly added orders system, I will admit, makes things pretty easy. This was, in fact, one of the easiest games in the series, well, except when the game kept crashing on me. And because of this, I had to remember to save often, because for some reason this game also didn't have an auto save feature. And like for all of that above, I will admit this was the most painful of the games in the Trails series that I've played, and it was a solid 7 or maybe 8 out of 10 game. I mean, it is Trails after all, it's going to be excellent. And I mentioned at the beginning some similarities between the Trails series and the first 3 phases of the MCU. That said, I'm going to end each entry with what I feel which movie best suits each game. So the MCU equivalent for Trails of Cold Steel 3 is Avengers: Infinity War. Number 11, Trails in the Sky 3rd Chapter, released May 3rd, 2017. This entry and the next one in my top 12 or what have you feel less like games with coherent stories and more like continuations of their previous entries' epilogues, as well as sort of bridges into the next games or wholly new games in the series. That doesn't make Trails in the Sky third chapter or the next game that I'm going to talk about bad games, but they both don't really tread new ground at all. What puts third chapter below the next entry I'm going to talk about is just how often assets from Trails in the Sky first and second chapter are reused here. It feels like I'm playing Final Fantasy IV The After Years, specifically the third act when the crazy amount of characters all gather on the moon. Thankfully, unlike After Years, we continue getting great character development, which is par for the course for the Trails story arcs. Another cool aspect with Trails in the Sky third chapter is the power of escalation. Namely, seeing our characters from second chapter retain their levels and experience, which results in some crazy high amounts of levels, hit points, and stats at the end of this game. It also keeps the great battle system from the previous two entries, and I've heard some people say it's outdated, but to me it was quite enjoyable, though playing with fast forward on is almost a must. MCU equivalent, Doctor Strange. Number 10, Trails into Reverie, released July 7th, 2023. While both this and Trails in the Sky third chapter I mentioned seem to be more extensions on the epilogue, at least Reverie has some interesting story beats with the C storyline. Lloyd's storyline feels like more continued persecution complex for him and his crew in the Triple S, and Reen's it's really like a nothing burger. The Reverie Corridor can be interesting, although the player can only take one single party through this procedurally generated series of dungeons. The lack of multiple parties is really more of a hindrance here, especially with the ridiculously large amount of characters that are playable and unlockable. And for better or worse, there aren't any side quests either. This entry also has the escalation aspect that Trails in the third chapter had, though it didn't really seem to continue any sort of the character leveling from the previous entry. That made investment into character growth really low for me, at least personally, especially again with the high amount of playable characters. The battle system with orders also really feels like it's ran its course, because this was the third entry in the Trail series that has it. And thankfully I felt like I was really happy that this was the shortest between it, Cold Steel 3 and 4. MCU equivalent, Spider-Man Far From Home. Number 9, Trails of Cold Steel 2, released September 6th, 2016. Like the song that never ends, this entry too felt endless. Of course, there's a lot of story to tell here as we see our protagonist Reen recover from his escape that he made at the cliffhanger end of the last entry. What follows is a regathering of his fellow classmates to help end the civil war that also kicked off at the end of the last entry. The end is satisfying until, of course, we're led into yet a whole new game of sorts controlling two characters that I'd never seen before. Who the heck are these two? Lloyd and Risha? I've never heard of them before. I, of course, started my first journey into Trails was with Cold Steel 1. So again, I had not heard of Lloyd or Risha before. And while they're a great addition, I felt for storytelling purposes, their addition to Cold Steel 2 was pretty superfluous. Beyond this, the overall gameplay sort of differs from the day and school-like structure of Cold Steel 1. I also found the music from this first entry to be better than Cold Steel 2. The battle system, of course, is pretty much the same, although it features more of the mech battles with Valimar, unfortunately. MCU equivalent, Iron Man 2. Number 8, Trails Through Daybreak 2, released February 14th, 2025. I really got sick of all the timey-wimey Deus Ex Machina crap that occurred throughout the main story beats of this entry. The ultimate big bad is a bit of an odd choice thematically. The story ultimately felt like a filler entry before what I'm assuming is going to be a much bigger narrative with Trails Beyond the Horizon. Still, at least we saw Swin and Nadia get more time from Trails into Reverie. Marian Garten getting added as like the Reverie corridor from that entry as well. But what really helps save Trails Through Daybreak 2, beyond the excellent shard-based battle system, is the character stories and overall character development. Prior to playing this entry, I had heard that English translation was supposed to be cringy and too much of our cultural lexicon.
And don't even get me started on the way Judith fills a room. It's not like I don't trust S to be faithful, but I'd better start upping my riz just to be sure.
I didn't really get that sort of feel at all. Didn't really find any issues, to be honest. Games by their nature are meant to be a product of their time, and the nation of Calvert is meant to be modeled after a country like the United States, so we are bound to see some of our own cringe mirrored right back at us. MCU equivalent, Guardians of the Galaxy 2. Number 7, Trails in the Sky, First Chapter, released March 29th, 2011. After playing Cold Steel 1 and 2, I decided it was time to move into the third entry, Cold Steel 3. I did end up getting a couple hours in, but I was convinced to stop my playthrough by Emily from Orbology and start from the very beginning of the series, this entry. And man, I am so glad that I did, because Estelle is truly one of the best heroes in jRPGs that I've had the fortune of being able to experience. She immediately caught my attention because even though she's a 16-year-old girl in an anime-like RPG, rarely is she heavily sexualized in this entry. And hell, that's rarely ever the case for any other entry that she appears in. And by not doing this, we're allowed to see her for more than whatever sense of womanhood that's on display, and see her for the sum of her parts, which is a spunky, outgoing, smart-mouthed, somewhat flawed, yet well-intentioned person. Her brother, Joshua, is the opposite of these traits, and they are on a no-stakes journey across their country to get certified as senior bracers, a group that's the literal definition of what community policing should be. And this entry is full of fun, funny, and interesting characters, right down to even the individual town NPCs. To me, this entry truly epitomizes what the perfect jRPG is. Great story, fun gameplay, fantastic music, and an interesting battle system. And while it's a little bit on the slow side, said battle system takes the best parts of Final Fantasy VII, X, and Tactics. What we get is turn-based jRPG goodness, which thankfully continues to the next 10 plus games in the series in varying form. I am definitely excited to see and play for myself the remake for this game. So far, it looks like it's capturing the colorful and whimsical look of Liberal Kingdom. MCU equivalent, Spider-Man Homecoming. Number 6, Trails of Cold Steel 1, released December 22nd, 2015. As previously mentioned, I started my Trails journey with this entry, and because of this, it's really got a special place in my heart and full of nostalgia. Prior to playing, I had gone through the entirety of the Ys series available at that time, and aesthetically, Cold Steel 1 kind of looks like Ys 4 Memories of Celceta, though with a more Persona-like gameplay cycle. This is because we're introduced to Reen, who goes to school at his country's military academy as part of a brand new class that mixes noble and common man alike. It then culminates into a bit of political intrigue as the noble faction of the ruling party goes against their common-based prime minister. Who knew that minister ultimately ended up so sinister? Terrible rhyming aside, we're treated to some great environments for Reen and his class to explore. Interesting characters and a fantastic soundtrack yet again. This entry's battle system featured some additions like the link system, which allowed for assisted attacks and overall support with the individual that is paired. This also helped to increase bond points between characters, though interactions with Reen himself can occur during various days off, much like a Persona entry. MCU equivalent, Iron Man. Number 5, Trails of Cold Steel 4, released October 27th, 2020. This entry has probably the best prologues for any of the series up to this point. Of course, being an Estelle stan, along with a huge fan of Lloyd, it was great to see them both finally get involved with all the craziness that had been going on with the Empire of Erebonia and how it's impacting the entire continent of Zemuria. From there, the game does slow down a bit as we're in the shoes of Reen's class that he teaches as they're trying to rescue him. Once the party is able to recover him, which takes a crazy amount of time, I seriously was around the 30-hour mark at this point, it becomes the harem game once again. And it's not just his own classmates this time. Reen can be hot for teacher by courting his former instructor. He can have a total lack of morals and hook up with his students, or even his own sister Elise. Yeah, I get that he's adopted, but come on, he was 5 years old when he was adopted. Elise even mentions she bathed with her brother when they were both super little kids. Just, ugh. There's also a bit of ick with the game really shipping Tita and Agate together. They have an absolutely fantastic arc in the Sky trilogy, but here in Cold Steel 4, she is 16 and he is 28. This gets into more of a discussion of morals as they're viewed in the source country of Japan, but that's a whole nother video. Getting back into the main crux of Cold Steel 4 though, all the issues I mentioned with the third entry are redeemed. Playing it on my Switch, I didn't have any crashes and the autosave feature worked fine, but I did notice a pretty high increase in the amount of load times and just general slowdown. The overall culmination of the story and character development is amazing, as is the other side of the villains. We see a number of conflicted villains, as is the style for the series, though there are two that were seemingly irredeemably villainous. This entry is also the only one that offers two endings, with the good or true ending being locked by making sure the player completes certain side quests prior to starting the last dungeon. Even this dual ending structure has an impact on the next game in the series. The last boss of this true ending is amazing, and it allowed me to form my own Trails Dream team. It, of course, comprised of Bestel, Joshua, Lloyd, and Reen. Having not had much chance to develop or level up anyone but Reen, admittedly it was a bit touch and go to try and get that ending, but I loved defeating this big bad with this foursome. The ending is also amazing as well, which saw a literal fairy tale end to two amazing characters from back in the Trails in the Sky trilogy. MCU equivalent, Avengers Endgame. Number 4, Trails Through Daybreak, released July 5th, 2024. This entry is the literal breath of fresh air for the series at this point, and apparently for my Switch One as well, as I noticed this entry performed the best out of the Trails games, not counting Lloyd's Duology, that I've played at this point. It was also very nice to play a literal adult, this being our new 24-year-old protagonist, Van. Seeing the sights and exploring Calvard for the very first time is also wonderful, along with a number of callbacks to previous entries, with appearances of minor characters like Cody McMillan to even the former President Rocksmith. We can't forget Ren appearing again, which I absolutely loved. How they retconned her getting help from Van years ago when she was a wayward 13-year-old. The story is great, although I felt like it perhaps was a bit overlong, biting off a bit more than it could chew conceivably within one single game. Some of the mystery of the various characters is played a bit too heavy-handed, such as Van's own past, who Anya is in relation to both sides of her parentage, and so on. The music is standard Falcom fare in that it's excellent and fits the urban, nigh American element that comprise Calvard's many locations. And can I just say how much I love the battle system? I was talking with Dala of Dala Games recently, and we both agree that this is how Final Fantasy VII Remake should have been. Daybreak's battle system allows the player to fight enemies in a manner of an action RPG game, then initiate a turn-based battle if they're able to turn the tables on the enemy. But you got to be careful, because sometimes the enemy can do that to you, the player, and his party. All bosses are 100% turn-based battles as well. With this battle system, gone is the overly powerful orders system from the last 3 entries, and linking isn't locked with just one individual. It's done via close proximity to others around the character whose turn it is. There's a lot of strategy this plays in regarding party member placement as a result. This is one of many reasons why I'm just so excited for the Trails in the Sky remake, since it's going to use this battle system but keep the colorful and whimsical world of Liberl reimagined in beautiful 3D. MCU equivalent? Guardians of the Galaxy. Number 3. Trails from Zero, released September 27th, 2022. This duology is probably the pinnacle of the series as a whole. We keep the origins of the fantastic battle system from the Sky trilogy and add in the S-breaks for the first time in the series. And these are great because they can be triggered at any time by the player during the course of battle as long as they have enough craft points. The music on this is absolutely phenomenal too. While the previous Sky trilogy kept like a light, adventurous sound, the duology here has a more synth and rock style. This may be to reflect the environment of Crossbell as a whole, since that has got like a whole city vibe. And speaking of both the music and battle theme, this entry, Trails from Zero, has the best battle theme in the entire series with Get Over the Barrier. And the story itself introduces Lloyd Bannings fresh out of Crossbell Police Academy graduating as a detective. He's stuck joining the newly formed SSS, or Special Support Section. While this looks like it's the government's own version of the Bracers, a better way to look at it would be community policing, kind of like what I mentioned earlier. Or even like our own real-world CSOs, though with paramilitary implications. I absolutely loved that Lloyd is introduced to his 3 partners of the SSS right away, which means we get our core 4 party members right off the bat, and they're all quite compelling in their own way, each with their histories that get slowly revealed as time goes on, along with their various conflicts that they each support one another. The city of Crossbell that the Triple S helped the citizenry with feels alive with its many different districts and individuals. My only issue with this entry, and really the duology as a whole, was that there wasn't any English voice acting. Beyond that, it ran perfect. Absolutely perfect on my Switch 1 at the time, and I cannot recommend it enough. Oh, and Estelle returns again. Now I really can't recommend it enough. MCU equivalent, Captain America, The First Avenger. Number 2, Trails to Azure. Azure? Released March 14th, 2023. MCU equivalent, Captain America, The Winter Soldier. Escalation is once again the name of the game here, up to and including the stakes for Lloyd and the Triple S to win the day. It's the same exact battle system as the previous entry, along with the great quality of music, though we are treated to 2 new members of the Triple S, Wazzy and Noel. And while they were nice, I felt like I was biding my time to get Ellie, Randy, and Tio back into my party. Also, what's with the SA scene that Shirley does to Ellie and Lloyd's non-reaction? This was really cringy and kind of started the Trails series beginnings of getting more sexualized than it was before. Fortunately, stuff like this is balanced out with the escalated story and some crazy reveals that involve core pillars of Crossbell's financial and political institutions. This game and this story is some peak storytelling for the Trails series and jRPGs overall. For example, it has been a long time since a video game really had me tear up and feel emotion of some sort. The ending to this game absolutely did that. Lloyd's meetup with one of the characters here at the end was so very wholesome, sweet, and true to both characters present. Around the time I had played this entry, I lost someone that I had the same relationship that Lloyd had with the same character he meets up with. Filled me with my own sort of emotional catharsis as I imagine how my own meetup would go. This is just masterclass. And I'm just so thankful for it. So thank you, Nihon Falcom, for giving me and fans of the Trails series such a wonderful experience. I don't know how this could even be topped, but ye gods, they did with number 1, Trails in the Sky, second chapter, released October 29th, 2015. MCU equivalent, Avengers, Age of Ultron. This entry is really just more of the same from the first chapter, albeit with the standard storyline and party member escalation. We're also revisiting some of the same areas from the previous entry and have the same great battle system. In my mind, though, what absolutely makes this the peak is the character development, its growth, and the various interactions that each of these characters have with one another. The game opens up with Estelle's absolutely fantastic and realistic portrayal of a heartbroken 16-year-old girl meeting up with the new character, Father Kevin Graham. And I feel like his own portrayal as like a womanizer isn't really fair to him and his own sense of self, because he's far from that sort of lecherous type. After all, if he was a lech, he would have taken advantage of Estelle, and he makes no such move. Beyond this amazing beginning, we also see Joshua get some absolutely amazing moments, up to and including the absolutely tragic backstory of learning why he left Estelle, because he feared what would happen to her older sister could happen to Estelle. We also see the likes of Olivier really come into his own, literally owning the royal blood he has, though still holding on to his bard-like roots, much to the chagrin of his handler, Handler? We also see Agate and Tita really adopt that wonderful big brother, little sister relationship, up to and including Agate finally opening up to Tita due to how much she reminds him of his late sister, Misha. I absolutely love the ending and how much catharsis there is with how the story concludes, and even how important Chloe herself really is as royalty to Liberl, as shown in the last area of the game. But speaking of Chloe, my favorite scene in the entire game, and this will sound a little weird, and it might sound like a really banal scene, but it's between her and Estelle at the auditorium of Genis Royal Academy. Within this conversation, Chloe admits her feelings for someone of importance to both her and Estelle, but says she understands that this person's feelings are truly for Estelle. The conversation then morphs into how much both Chloe and Estelle admire one another for their traits, and it's then able to move into where Chloe's insecurity truly lies, with her taking the throne after her grandmother. This small but important conversation under a microscope shows the depth of character development Nihon Falcom was able to give the many players on this stage. And after the scene, I had to hit a save point and stop playing, because I took a step back, touched some grass to realize that gaming moments like these, and games such as these in general, don't occur very often. I mean, it's one thing, and I know you guys are thinking, like, really? It's just girl talk between two teenage girls. But understand that such a moment where this game is meant to escalate the whole level of where the story is going and just escalation in general. But for them to take a moment in such a low stakes, no stakes conversation such as this, to accurately portray these two girls talking, it was something that just, it's such a great, but it's really that sort of reason why I really have to credit the creators of this series and this particular game for its depth. And for that reason, among so many, not only is this the best Trails game in the series, but probably breaks the top 5 of best jRPGs that I've played ever. So with all of that said, as I mentioned, I'm just really excited again, not only to play Trails in the Sky First Chapter Remake, but also Trails Beyond the Horizon. And I'm kind of wondering how this great series is going to come to an end. The dev team has indicated that we are coming near to the end of the series, possibly with one more arc after the Calvard one. I'll always look to the MCU movies as a time period where we had a bunch of movies loosely linked together narratively, culminating into an event via the last two Avengers movies. With how fantastic the Trails series is, I'll be excited to see what sort of culminating event Nihon Falcom has for us. And let me know in the comments section below your favorite entry in the Trails series and your thoughts about my numbering. Thanks again for watching, and have a great day.